Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first edition of the Coach's Corner here in 2020. Still haven't quite got used to saying that. Have you signed 2019 on stuff, Mike?
I just actually bought a house, so I signed 2020 on a lot of things. So
okay, so you kind of got that. So, Mike Teague is here as always, here for our weekly episodes here on the Vanguard Podcast Network. So we're really excited to have you join us today. We got a great conversation with Brad Rostratter, who is our head men's volleyball coach here. They're about a couple days away from playing their first game. But, Mike, you have the pleasure of kind of guiding the men's volleyball program administratively here at Vanguard, and you kind of married into a volleyball world.
Yeah.
You moved from the grass, from soccer over kind of to a second love of volleyball, and I know it's been a passion of yours to kind of get Vanguard get in early in the men's volleyball game.
Yeah, no, definitely. For me, this is it's a special time for Vanguard Athletics, not just for the growth that we've had, as you guys all know, but men's volleyball especially, and this is something personal to me. I love volleyball. I think volleyball is an incredible sport, and obviously on the women's side, I kind of married into it. And so my wife was a volleyball player, now a coach, and I ended up starting to watch men's volleyball more due to family members who played it. And I'm like, man, this sport is something else. It's something different, and we need to have this in Vanguard. And since then, it's kind of been like, all right, we need to get it going. And finally, we were able to get it going thanks to kind of the help of Jeff Bissell and the rest of the administrative team, and really excited to get it going. And I think Brad, as you guys will find in this conversation, world-class human being, world-class person, and an incredible technical coach as well, especially for his age and it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, his age. I mean, his experience from Pepperdine, from Concordia, from just his love for the game, jumping into the USA Volleyball gym. I mean, he's all over the place, and he's just has such a thirst for knowledge and for teaching. And I think that this program and this team especially is going to be a real special thing on our campus, not just athletically, but also just in the community as well. And so I think that you guys will be able to see that as we move forward in Jeff's conversation that we're about to jump into with head men's volleyball coach Brad Rostratter.
All right, we're going to welcome in Brad Rostratter, the head coach of Vanguard Men's Volleyball, one of our two new teams this year.
Yep.
So we'll kind of get into a bunch of various things that you've gone through for the last year, but off the top of your head, do you remember your first day here at Vanguard?
I think it was March 28th, March 29th, somewhere around there, the end of March. Something
like that, and you jumped right from your other job, got right started in here. We'll in a little bit we'll go through your experience at Pepperdine, but we're gonna first start with kind of the fall season. You got guys here on campus, and got them in the gym and some early mornings both here, over the beach, things like that. So kind of just walk us through the bonding and everything from the fall season.
Yeah, so the fall's been awesome. It's been the main goal was just make sure we were all playing hard and competing hard every time we were in the gym. And we've been super blessed to have a group of guys that work their tails off. So, yeah, we were able to train 4 days a week in the morning, which was awesome, and then we got 1 day in the afternoon. So Tuesday through Friday we would train at 6 a.m. So the guys were in the gym by 5:45, starting to warm up, getting ready to go. And then their reward for all their hard work throughout the week was Fridays we would go down to the beach, and we'd get down to Huntington at Newland Street, get down there at 6 a.m. We'd condition, do some different stuff, try to get as creative as possible with some of the conditioning and the exercises. So I don't know if the guys liked it or hated it, but they got it done. And then the women's beach team would come down at 6:45, and we'd play some co-ed beach with them. So it made for a really fun week, and it was good to kind of set the weekend off that way.
That's awesome. And you're a morning guy, so you probably liked being out there with the cold air and things like that. So, as you started in March, and you hit the ground running with recruiting and trying to get these guys here on campus to even get a field put a team into the gym. So, kind of when you first started, getting your feet wet and going, okay, what is Vanguard Volleyball going to be about? What kind of athletes, what kind of men are we going after? Do you kind of remember that, this checklist you were making in your head of kind of, what is going to define a Vanguard men's volleyball player?
Yeah, the the first thing was just the straight volleyball attributes, which is really the kind of the easy part. Like any parent can sit at a club tournament and be like, oh, that guy's good at volleyball. That guy can hit a ball hard, or that guy can pass a ball well. So that stuff obviously is important. Size, athleticism, the ability to hit the ball with pace and direction kind of stand out as three of the major things within volleyball. And then on top of that, it's how they carry themselves and what type of teammates they are. For me, I'm huge on how we act as teammates and how you act, maybe when you're not playing or maybe when you're the last team playing at a tournament. That stuff really stands out to me, and I think it speaks a lot to someone's character and what they want to be doing as volleyball players or just as people in general. So I try to kind of evaluate and see that type of stuff. And then how people respond to messing up or making errors, because no one's going to be perfect. I'm definitely not going to be perfect, and no one here is going to be perfect. And no one,
especially in the game of volleyball.
Yeah. So volleyball is a game of managing losing, because you're going to lose about 50% of the time. You lose the point. You lose the rally. So how you bounce back from that and how you respond to that is huge to the team success and your own personal success, and as a coach, your own sanity. So you got to be comfortable being able to lose and being able to respond positively to that. So we got to do a lot of that.
That's really cool. And then, our first recruit, there's kind of a special story behind the first guy you signed.
Yes.
Can you kind of tell our listeners kind of the breadth of that experience and things like that?
So it was probably about 3.5, 4 years ago. For the kid's name is Kyle Onema. And I played with his brother, Brett Onema, who's now the assistant coach at Liberty University. He's working with one of the guys who coached the inaugural team at Concordia, Trevor Johnson, before kind of going off to the women's side. So I played with his brother, and he's late in his senior year, he really developed and became a pretty darn good volleyball player. And so we were recruiting him and watching him at Pepperdine. We were checking him out, and he was planning to go to the junior college route. So we told him, hey, we're going to stay in contact with you. We're looking forward to watching your development. And fast forward 1.5 years from that conversation out in Columbus, Ohio at Junior Nationals, and I'm taking this new job, and Pepperdine wasn't a fit for him for one reason or another, and he was still trying to figure out where he was going to go to college. So I called his brother first when I kind of knew this was happening, and I told him, hey, I want to bring Kyle in. I want him to be the first recruit, just like you were at Concordia, because his brother was the first commitment to Trevor at Concordia. And then after about a month and a half through the recruiting process, because he had a couple other great options because he's a talented player, he ended up committing and being our first commitment. And there might have been a few other guys that I was kind of holding back so we could kind of have this cool story
yeah, exactly.
for when I was going to be on the podcast, But yeah, it worked out really, really well, and he's done an awesome job for us, along with quite a few other guys, really helping kind of lead the way and be a pioneer for Vanguard volleyball.
Absolutely. So we've kind of touched on it a little bit here, but how did you get into volleyball first? How old were you? When did you decide, like, hey, I'm going to focus on volleyball over the other sports you probably played as a kid?
Yeah, I started in middle school, and I'm one of the few coaches. I never even played club volleyball, which is pretty permanent for getting kids to college. So I never even played club. I started in middle school because my middle school PE teacher offered extra credit, and that was going to get me out of a 1.5 mile run later on down the road. So I went to the tryout for that, ended up falling in love with the sport, and had a crew of about 6 or 7 friends that we kind of played throughout high school together, and we were just athletes. I played basketball and volleyball. There was football players, there was wrestlers, and we were just kind of a mixed bag of guys who were athletic, and volleyball was fun for us. And then I ended up somehow kind of at a whim ending up at Orange Coast College, which is probably for me, my arm's not so great, probably like 3 stones throws away from us.
Just down the road here.
But yeah, so it's real close. And so I ended up getting to Orange Coast College, and that was really my first experience with college volleyball and high-level volleyball in any capacity, because at the high school level and without the club exposure, it's just not quite the same. But it's also created a great appreciation for the level of play and the kids who don't have those opportunities, because it wasn't something that really was kind of feasible for me, and it wasn't even on my forefront. I was too busy playing basketball and going to AAU tournaments and things like that, thinking I was going to the NBA, and that is
and then you
I'm
stopped
not quite a fit for
growing.
that.
Exactly. So then how did you kind of walk us through your transition from OCC to being over at Concordia,
Yeah.
being on that first inaugural team?
So I started at OCC, and Travis Turner, who's the head coach at OCC, he's the club director at Balboa Bay Volleyball Club, who I now work for, and he brought me, or I came to OCC, and he doesn't make cuts. So basically what he does, he gets a bunch of guys who come and want to be on the team, and he conditions for either a month to 4 months until enough guys quit to where it's a good size for the team. And apparently we had a long conditioning session my freshman year. It went about like 3 months or so. And then hindsight 2020, it ended up being because he was trying to get me to quit the team because on the depth chart there was 54 guys and I was number 55. So the whole time it was kind of me just kind of working and grinding my way to make the team. And I ended up being on the team for both years I was there. And then my career ended with some lack of volleyball skill, and also on top of that, some injuries. And then I ended up at Cal State Fullerton, just kind of going to school and getting my teaching credential was the plan, and coaching basketball at the high school level and coaching volleyball at the high school level, and continuing to coach club at Balboa Bay Volleyball Club. So I stayed busy as a coach and as a teacher of sport. And then Concordia University Irvine started up a men's volleyball program in 2013. So I had a few friends I knew who were doing that, and they got me in contact with the coach, Trevor Johnson, who I talked about a little earlier. And then I met with him and was like, you know what, I'm going to go for it. It's my senior year of college and a new program, and I really missed volleyball at that time, playing it specifically. So I jumped in and kind of went all in and really immersed myself in that experience, and ended up being the first graduate from Concordia University men's volleyball, the first alumni. I lost that alumni match the first year by forfeit. You can't play with one guy on the court. And then ended up coaching there immediately after graduating. So it was a really cool experience that really shaped my coaching philosophy, is when I got to coach guys older than me, more experienced than me, and that were friends of mine. And it's something that really helps me now, because I look at my coaching relationship as more of a partnership and a friendship with all the guys within the program and on the team than a traditional coach as the hierarchy or players are lower on the totem pole. I think we're all in this together.
So your year playing at Concordia, you guys won the whole thing,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
And then your first year coaching, you guys lost by a point in the finals.
Yes,
is that
we
right?
got swept in 3 sets. We were swept. I believe it was deuce game, so 25-23 every set.
Yeah.
They had Daniel Ortega just absolutely go off on us, and we couldn't stop him.
Yeah, so you kind of have seen the highs and the lows, early in a program. So, kind of being on an inaugural team and then now recruiting and coaching and directing an inaugural team, what kind of experiences do you find yourself, late at night, early in the morning, kind of going back to 7 years ago when you were on that team and kind of trying to connect the dots a little bit?
It's a lot different. And, I don't know if I was just naive at the time, but as a player, I just assumed we were going to win every single match ever because, I don't know, maybe I was stubborn or some might call it dumb. But, that was just kind of my mindset and kind of how I thought. And now it's more about investing in the individuals and the people within the program. And I try not to think about, the results or what's going to be happening down the road and try to really just focus on what I could do to help this player who's struggling with something, whether it's in the classroom or off the court, or maybe it's some skill they're struggling to pick up and get better at. It's a lot more present focus and I'm more in the moment on a daily basis. So it's nice because that there's not too much stress if you just live in the moment.
Exactly. So how long were you you were a grad assistant at Concordia?
Yes,
right?
grad assistant and then a part-time assistant, and kind of was there for about 3.5 years.
3.5 years. And then after that, kind of walk us through what'd you do between, leaving your time at Concordia and then when we poached you away from Pepperdine.
Yeah. So when I left Concordia, I also left Lululemon and plenty of other little part-time gigs, from Balboa Bay Volleyball Club to T Street Volleyball Club. I've coached at various high schools, from Newport Harbor to Laguna Beach High School, and was left kind of all that mixing and matching, living in garages and making it work. And I got a job opportunity at Arizona State with Stevie Mussey out there, and she was the new head coach there, and they were looking to build a program, and I didn't really know much about anything about Arizona, and definitely not much about women's volleyball as well. It turns out it's not that different, and it ended up being an amazing experience for me and created lots of great friends, and it gave me lots of perspective on how to handle lots of different things in terms of administration, how to handle player-coach relationships and coach-to-coach relationships, and really just how to kind of conduct and act and control yourself over time. And it brought so many amazing friendships and relationships for me, which kind of led me into the opportunity and position at Pepperdine to come in, because I was working with, it's funny because the volleyball world is just such a small circle that I was working with someone who had just retired from the women's national team, Tamari Mirashiro, who goes by Tama. And she was a libero from Hawaii, played at University of Washington, national champion. And now she's the assistant coach with the national team. And when she has free time, she comes in and helps us out in the gym here. So she's been around. She was out at the first serve dinner. She helped connect Karch with myself a little more. She had worked with David Hunt, who was the associate head coach at the time, along with Marv Dunphy. And they were looking for a volunteer assistant. My former coach, Travis Turner, from Balboa and Orange Coast College, also knew they were looking for volunteers, so he told David about myself. Then I talked with Travis, and Travis told me to call David. After I talked to David, he then called Tamari Mirashiro, Tama. Basically, in his words, was just to make sure I wasn't a weirdo. One thing led to another, and I came back sometime in December. I came back to Newport, and David was like, "You want to come up to Malibu for a day?" So I went up, got to hang out with Marv Dunphy, David Hunt, and Sean Rooney at the time. And now it's funny because now Sean's down here helping me out.
Yeah, exactly.
And kind of around the gym.
Full circle.
Yeah, so lots of names and lots of people and lots of great people. And that's kind of a little bit of the journey.
So one of the interesting things that you had to navigate, when you were pursuing becoming the head coach here, you were in the middle of your Pepperdine season, which you kind of stepped away from, and you almost had the perfect storm of Marv took your spot at Pepperdine, which you probably never thought that would happen. No. So, it was probably a little bit bittersweet. So you're down here, you're following your guys, you're watching all their games and things like that. So what was the biggest blessing you got during that season, and what was the biggest trial from being away from your guys at that point?
Yeah, the biggest blessing was without a doubt the opportunity here at Vanguard. And I think that something that went along with it was how supportive Marv, David, Kevin, who was the assistant at the time, Chip, who was the volunteer at the time, because my departure meant a lot more work on their end. And then just all the guys, the support from all the guys at Pepperdine. It was clear that, one, they understood the opportunity for me and my growth in my career, and two, they cared about me because they were definitely excited. They weren't pumped that I wouldn't be able to have their back and go to battle with them the rest of the season. But they knew I'd be there in spirit, and they knew whenever I wasn't out recruiting at a junior college match or a high school match or out at a practice, and they had matches, they knew I'd be there. But yeah, the support from them and just their guidance going through it all, from the staff at Pepperdine all the way down to all the guys.
That's really cool. It's probably the hardest part is you're down here, you're the head coach of Vanguard men's volleyball, and you have no team yet.
Yeah.
So you don't even have the guys to hang out with, the bus triads and things like that. So we're a week away. Oh, actually, we're only like 4 or 5 days away. Now that folks will hear this from the first game, it'll be in here in the pit. What's going through your heart and your mind as you're kind of like,
I'm ready to play.
Oh my gosh, it's here, right?
Let's do it. I wish we were playing tonight. I wish we were playing yesterday. I mean, the guys are ready. I'm ready. The program's ready. I think the pure excitement level and the build-up has been almost really nice because we got lots of time to reset and recover over break. And I think that led to a little added feistiness and more competitiveness. And the practices since we've been back have been stellar. The effort has been extraordinary. So I can't wait. And it's cool because we keep progressing and growing as a team and as volleyball players. And then with some of the situations of guys we were bringing in, we're progressing and growing, and then we're adding more pieces and adding more pieces and getting stronger and stronger as a total group and as a total unit. So I'm super excited for the match on Wednesday versus St. Catharines, but I'm also very excited to see what happens at the end of March. To see where we're at, because our teams, I'm happy with what we look like, and I'm excited for how hard we're going to compete. But I'm also super excited to see what happens as we continue to train and continue to get better and continue to just grow as a group and kind of flourish as Vanguard Volleyball.
Yeah, and one of the cool things that I noticed the other day is, I don't know if you did this on purpose, but everyone you recruited was like a sophomore. So they're going to be here a couple years and be able to build together and things like that. So that's really cool. So we want to just thank you, Brad, for stopping in. And I know you got to recruit on campus, so we'll get you back out there to recruiting
pop away real
future
quick,
players. So thank you so much for visiting us here on the Coach's Corner.
Thank you all for coming back and listening into this conversation that Jeff Melton was able to have with Brad Rostratter of our men's volleyball program. As you guys can hear and you guys were able to see hopefully throughout the season, special guy. He's going to build an incredible, talented team here with an incredible culture, and I hope you guys are able to make out to some matches this year. First one being on Wednesday, January 14th, I believe, actually 15th. Whatever the Wednesday is that's upcoming is going to be. It's going to be January 15th. That's going to be their first matchup. So once again, thank you guys so much for jumping into this first matchup, or first mashup, I guess you could say, of the Coach's Corner on the Vanguard Athletics Podcast Network. Happy 2022 all. Feel free to like, subscribe, rate this podcast on whatever services that is. That can be SoundCloud. That could be, it's been a while. Google Play, Apple Podcasts, Facebook, YouTube, however it is you listen. Feel free to share it with your friends and family, and we'd be happy to have you on. So thanks so much for joining us again. Hope you guys have a blessed rest of your week.